Hello, I'm Diane Barrett. It's Wednesday, May 26, 2021, and I'm here with Evonne Davenport. She's being interviewed for the BE collection. So thank you. Thank you for doing this. I understand you're a good golfer.
Well, it depends on the age and the course and let's put it this way, I love to golf. And sometimes
How long
I'm
have you been doing
with
that?
How long? Well, when I met Gloria, my longtime wife partner, she was a golfer and I had just kind of piddled around with it. But when I met her, then we began playing golf together. So that was really when I started. I took some lessons and I started playing regularly. So that was 54 years ago. So
I was just going to say that was a long time ago.
that was a very long time ago, yes.
I'm from a golfing family, but I cannot golf.
Well,
So I'm the only one. I can do it, but it's a difficult sport.
it is.
So good for
And
you.
one of the nice things about it is you can play it at any age if you're willing to accept that your talent may change with age and just like being outside. And that's what I like.
Right. Good. I like that too.
Yeah.
So where were you born?
I was born in a little town in Oregon called Spray, which is not close to anything. It's in the sort of the northeastern section of Oregon.
And how long did you stay there?
Our family moved from there to Idaho when I was 12 years old. So I had all my young years there in that wonderful little town.
Do you ever go back there?
I've been back there as an adult a couple of times, just reminiscing. And I have a cousin who goes there and has a house once in a while. So I have been back. It looks like a very different town now, of course.
My partner Marge I grew up in Vail, Oregon.
Oh yeah, I know where that is. I've been there. It's quite a ways from Spray, though.
Sounds like it.
Yeah.
We have a lot of relatives in Oregon, so that's nice.
Yeah.
Portland, that's a good place. So, are you? Do you have siblings?
I have one sister and one brother, both younger. My brother is the youngest. My sister is the middle, and I'm the oldest.
And your parents? What kind of work did they do?
My mother basically was a housewife, but she was a teacher for a couple of years way back when. And my father was an automobile mechanic, and he had in Spray, he had a garage where he took care of cars. And the last few years they were there, he had invested in some two large generators and produced electric power for our little town.
Whoa.
Yeah. Just about everybody had their own generators or no power. This is back in the 30s. And he was an excellent mechanic, and the electric power was just a real asset. And my mother helped with the bookkeeping of that. So she kind of was involved and helped reading the meters too, I think.
So they were a team.
Yes, they were, definitely.
Do you have any siblings that were gay?
That are what?
Are there any homosexuals in your family besides your? No,
there are not.
So when you were 12, you moved and you went to high school in a different location then?
Yes.
Idaho.
I was when we moved to Idaho, I was in the 8th grade. So I went 1 year to a grade school, and then I went 4 years to my high school in the little town next to where we lived.
Did you keep moving? Did you go to college after that, or?
Yes, I did. None of my family had been to college, although my mother had been a grade school teacher for a couple of years. And I've always believed that even though no one else had been to college, having an education and getting something that beyond high school was always indicated to us as an important thing.
So where did you go to
Although I'm
college?
the only one, my two siblings did not graduate from college. Each of
Uh,
them attended college for a while.
and when did you, where did you go to college?
I went my first 2 years to Ricks College, which is in eastern Idaho.
Mhm.
I went my last 2 years and graduated a bachelor's degree in Brigham Young University.
Uh,
And ultimately, I got my master's degree at San Jose State University. You can
that's
see
California.
moved to California after college graduation.
When you were growing up, did you have any inkling that you were gay?
Not at all. In fact,
Oh.
I don't even know what the term was.
Mhm.
In retrospect, I will look back and see that I rarely dated. I didn't have a real high interest in the boys or dates in high school,
Uh-huh.
as some of my friends and siblings did. But it never worried me. I never thought that there was something that might be wrong with me.
Uh-huh.
It wasn't until I got to college that interacted with a few people from California that I found out really that, what gay life, and at that time we weren't using the term lesbian at all, that there was such a thing. I remember asking one friend in kind of a group we had, and I said, because I had learned this term, and I asked this friend, well, are you gay? She said, yeah, I'm a pretty happy person. So I don't know if that meant, and she wasn't, as far as I found out later, she wasn't gay, but I don't know if she said that in order to protect herself or just really didn't know. Didn't know what the word meant.
Huh.
Yeah, and never did.
No. So when did you come out to yourself then? Was it about the same time as you put that question out there?
I came out to myself my first, I guess it was my second year in college in Ricks College at Rexburg. A good friend there became a better friend, and I found out from her, because she had more experience than I was a newbie, and it seemed to me, and I've thought about this a lot in the past, that it was an okay thing. I don't ever remember feeling guilty myself.
Mm-hmm. Good.
I was aware enough to know that I didn't need to run out and shout it on the streets or with my family until I was ready or they were ready. But personally, I don't remember ever. I just remember feeling grateful that I had such a wonderful friend.
Did you have a sexual relationship? Did you become lovers?
Yes, we did.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Did I have a sex with others? No, she
No,
was
with
my
her.
first.
Okay. So then you went into a relationship with her? She became your first lover? Okay.
Yes, it was a relationship.
Mhm.
Then we both transferred to Brigham Young University for our junior year, and things began to happen there. We fell apart, although we kind of remained friends. And in later life, we were friends, but at that time, it was a little tough on me.
I understand that. Right. It is.
Yes.
Many lesbians remain friends and lovers. They've been lovers, and I don't have to tell you that. You already know that. So if we classify you for occupation, would we put you as educator?
Yes.
Okay. Good. I forgot to ask that in the beginning.
Yeah, I taught 1 year in high school, and then the rest of my teaching career was in the community college, 2 different ones.
What subjects did you teach?
I taught physical education and coached. And my last 10 years at the community college, I was an administrator.
What did you coach?
I coached basketball and softball mostly. I coached some tennis in my high school job, but mostly in community college, I coached girls basketball and girls softball.
And did the issue of your sexuality ever become an issue when you were signing up for jobs?
No.
No. Good.
Not to my knowledge, anyway. I I was not doing anything obvious. I was careful about myself,
Mhm.
and I'm sure that I got my jobs based on my own abilities,
Right.
and I didn't lose any jobs because of my sexuality because I was careful. You know,
Uh-huh.
I did not try to show off anything.
I asked that because there was a time when women, teachers, were challenged to say that they were not homosexual. And then if they were found out, they were removed from their classroom.
I have heard of that, but
Uh-huh.
that was never one of the things that I fortunately had to face.
Good. Were you open with your relationship?
Yes, in a couple of senses. Um, I was open. Well, actually, I did not have a partner the 1 year that I taught in high school,
Mhm.
and I I got my permanent partner partway through my first few years at the first community college. And the interesting thing about that is that my partner ultimately was got a job on the staff at the same place I did. So we worked together for a number of years. So most of the people that we worked with and worked for knew that we lived together. We never did or said anything about that what that relationship was, but
Uh-huh.
we did not try to hide that our addresses were the same, and it was never became an issue.
Good. Would you advise lesbians today to do the same?
Well, I think I would say yes, carefully, because things are much more understood and accepted in some cases today. I would say you would need to carefully be aware of the circumstances that you are working in before you would do anything overtly. Um, I guess if somebody asked now, I would like to say they should say yes, but I think it would depend on the circumstances. I can't imagine that any of the ones today, given the environment, would say no. But you
Mhm.
know, where they work, maybe the deep south, that may not be a good idea.
I know. Are you Mormon?
Okay,
Were
let's
you
put it
raised?
this way. I was baptized a Mormon. I was
Ah,
raised a Mormon. But once I discovered my own way of life, I I do not go to church anymore. I never removed my name from the records,
uh-huh.
and all of my family is very religiously Mormon and accepting of me.
That's
We
great.
don't talk about it, but they know, and they've always known my partners. So I guess in that way, I'm kind of hidden, but I am not. I'm not rejected.
Mhm.
I'm I'm accepted for who I am. But I have two nephews that I talk to a lot and that are wonderful favorites. Two of my sister's sons, and it's fine. I can talk openly with them.
Mhm.
Others accept me, and I see them. We meet together, but nobody asks me about my sexuality, but they know Gloria. That's my,
Uh,
partner for 54
uh,
years, and they've seen her many, many, many times, and we were both accepted by the whole family,
that's
but
great.
it was without wearing our labels.
Mhm.
If any of them ask us, we answered yes. I did start using the term partner after a while instead of,
Uh-huh.
oh, my roommate, because partner
Right.
became more of an accepted term in the community,
Mhm.
and yet it could have different means
Right.
outside our community.
Right. It could be about a business or who knows, teaching.
Yeah.
Is
What was that?
Gloria an educator also?
Yes, yes. She worked at the same school I did for
Okay. So
the last many years.
how did
And
you
she
come to
was
meet her?
um, when my time at the first community college that I taught at was I was in charge in the local athletic community, women's athletic community. I was in charge of training officials a committee trained officials for various sports, for women's sports. And she was a physical education teacher coach at Fresno State University. And they were starting a women's volleyball intercollegiate program, and they needed some officials to be trained. She was the coach. And so because our area was one that had teachers that could train the officials and then get them rated. So I ran a couple of clinics for people that wanted to be officials, and she brought people over with her to do that. And it was there that I met her for the first time, and there seemed to be kind of a little spark there.
The first time I saw her.
It was.
Spark was there. Good.
And then I found out later that two friends of mine who lived in Santa Clara that I saw periodically knew Gloria from someplace, because they knew had some common friends in the Fresno.
Did you coach women's sports or men and women's?
Did I? I just coached, well, I'll take that back. My 1 year in high school where I coached tennis, it was co-ed tennis. And all my coaching in the community college was all women's softball, women's basketball.
And where did Title IX fit in during that time?
Well, it was interesting. It certainly was in there. And after finally a while, after there'd been more generalized publicity about what Title IX meant to college and community college athletics, that then enough pressure was brought to the, my internet's unstable, but it's working. Enough pressure was brought to the Community College State Administration Committee, which was for men, that they were forced to make sure that the state organizations for sports were men and women. Now, how that affected all of us who had women, who were women coaching women's teams, some were men coaching women's teams. A committee was formed, and representatives from all of the women's leagues in the state met periodically over a period of about 2 years to go through the state athletic code and make it so it fit both men's and women's.
And what state were you in at that time? Were you in California then?
Oh yeah, all of this was in California. Okay. I was one of the representatives from the Women's Athletic Association of the Bay Area. So each of those associations, women's associations across the state, would meet periodically, because we were meeting with the men's representatives to work on making this a co-ed document. And the first meeting that we had.
Okay, go ahead. I was going to ask about resistance.
First meeting we had, the men wanted to simply put the name, this is the men's and women's athletic code. And that was what they thought would be the revision. Well, it didn't take long for, especially some of our more outspoken women coaches, to say, that's not going to work.
Good.
And so we worked as joint committees for 2 years and got the code that we could all agree. And the men worked with us and finally agreed. So then the state athletic code became men's and women's. So many of the women's leagues had to change how they did things, as well as the men. And I understood from some of the colleges, in some cases, there were some men's sports that actually had to be dropped from a college curriculum because women's were added.
So women weren't allowed to participate in the same sports?
That's a good question, but to my knowledge, in the ones that I was involved, there were no sports that were co-ed. Oh wait, there were tennis was co-ed, swimming was co-ed, but the team sports were not that they couldn't be, but it was much more realistic for helping the women have a place to have their own, and they were protected by the code. So that's why in some cases, if a college did not have any women's sports in certain areas, they had to add them. So if there was a men's basketball team, they had to have a women's basketball team. And that's why in some cases, the number of men's teams had to be reduced in order to
make
add.
room. Right.
Yeah.
Huh.
So all of that went on, and it took a while, but it was widely finally accepted, and women's sports grew unbelievably. The state, even now, just as they're premier teams of women, and it never hurt the men's teams,
Right.
which is what they were afraid of. Right.
They're always afraid of us. We don't. Yeah. We're not here to challenge them. We're just here to do our thing. So was that an exciting time to work on all that? Did you enjoy it?
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
It was exciting, and it was also a chance for me to meet some of the other coaches and teachers across the state.
Right.
Because at that time we didn't have a statewide association for physical education coaches. We had our own local one, and we had some very good organizations. And some of the women's groups were a little upset about having to give up their own guidance and combine it with the men's at their school. It took a little while for that process to work, but it worked out wonderfully. And women's sports was the winner, really, as far as progress, and women athletes, just became much, much better, and more of them.
When you think back on your life, can you think of a certain person that was a great mentor for you, or even a moment when you said, aha, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life, besides being with Gloria?
Well, yes. And it had really nothing to do with my sexuality, but
that's okay.
When at Brigham Young University, I was a physical education major, and we had a very well-organized department. And the woman who was the director of the women's athletics, Dr. Leona Holbrook, I don't know if she was gay or not, and it didn't matter, but I don't think she was married. But anyway, she was active in all kinds of national and international organizations, and she taught several of our classes, and I just admired her so much. Not necessarily that she was an athlete or anything, because she was into her administration years by the time I saw her, but because of the things she did in the career in the field that were important to the field, I began to really admire that. And I had already made my decision to major in physical education and become a teacher, because back then, what do you be if you're a woman? A nurse, a teacher, or something else. And I didn't want housewife. Yeah, that was pretty much out. But I didn't want to be a nurse, although I could have been, but because I was athletic and I enjoyed sports, though, it just became by going to college and university, I found out I could get a career in something I enjoyed. And that's what the decision was for me, and I've never regretted it.
So she inspired you?
Absolutely.
Have you been able to tell her that?
She passed away long before I was in any position, although when I was preparing for my sabbatical leave from the community college, I was going to visit schools in Europe. And I knew that she had a lot of contacts. So I did contact her and ask if she had any recommendations of people I could see. And I actually got some specific people to see. And
That's
so
good.
I guess in some ways, if I asked her for that kind of information, she knew that I appreciated.
You have another question?
No, I was just going to say, I was just going to thank you.
Oh.
I appreciate very much what you're doing. I think it's something that will help a lot of people who get in contact with it and feel some security where they are uncertain.
I think the security is a big factor because sometimes we get really isolated. And
Yes.
you watch these and you're not alone. You
That's
see
right.
some really credible and really interesting women who pursued a life for themselves in spite of difficulties. And they're happy about it. They're pleased.
Yeah, that's right.
So I think, and as we age, we get more isolated. So part of this is to expand that.
Exactly.
Video does that. I mean, all of us were raised with television. We had a television in our neighborhood. It was about this big. I was growing up, right? Well, keep your ideas coming to me. We appreciate that. And so does Marge. Right.
Good.
And this is your legacy.
Yeah.
So
I like that.
Considering that, if you knew that your death was imminent, what would you like to be remembered for?
What would I like to?
Okay, I'm here.
I guess that basically the parts of me that are basic to my personality are rather introverted, but when there is something that I know that I want to do, I will set out ways to see that it happens. I like people. I don't like confrontations if I don't have to have them, but if I have to. But knowing how I feel about things, people, animals, I have dogs I couldn't live without at this point.
Yeah.
So those things that I know about me, I think are good. And there are times when I'm down, but I'm confident enough that I can handle most things. And I know that because I've had experiences that I've tested myself. I guess that's a long rambling way to answer your question.
Those are your gifts.
Yeah, I think so.
What you developed with yourself, but what you have to give. And you've given, I'm sure, in your career, your choices and your love. Just having loved someone so deeply for so long.
Yeah, that's right. I guess you saw that picture that I sent, the Christmas tree farm that we owned.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We had that for 20 years. Well, we were still working, teaching most of that time, but it was living right on 5 acres in the middle of thousands of Christmas trees.
That was a great idea.
It was a great adventure and a wonderful place to live. I love living outdoors.
So thank you. We'll talk again.
All right. Thank you very much for all the work you're doing.